Posso partire.
Okay, hello, just a moment, Giorgio. I will introduce. Hello, everybody. My name is Dario Di Santo. I will be the chairman of this webinar. Welcome, and we are going to start immediately at once. And I will give the floor to Giorgio Franchioni, the coordinator of the project, to give you an introduction of this webinar and also the UMercy project.
May I start?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, hello,
Can you see my screen? Valentina, my screen is okay?
No, we don't see your screen. You have to share it, just like yesterday. And now, Effie, it's
hello?
available.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for this.
So you can speak and you can share your screen now to show us your presentation.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Giorgio, for covering up. Τι πετάω το Outlook. Πώς κάνει full screen. Full screen να πάει το τέτοιο.
Να κρύψουμε κάτι.
Όχι, αυτό να είναι full screen. Slideshow. Slideshow. From beginning, εντάξει.
Όχι, δεν έκανε.
Τι, θα το πω. Εντάξει, ευχαριστώ. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, Effie, go on.
Yes, okay, thank you. Welcome to the UMercy webinar, the first of a series of 3. Sorry for these technical problems. The theme of the webinar, of the first webinar, is energy efficiency policies and SIMs for industry. Perhaps I close this. Anyway, okay, better. First of all, I would like to share some information about UMercy, which is supported by the EU Horizon 2020 program. The objective of this project is to foster the growth of energy efficiency in the European Union industry, according to the respective directive, and through the identification and dissemination of real experience of good practices. So it is very important to share the experience of the implementations of policies, schemes, and mechanisms in order for the industry to support the exploitation. You can also see the project partners. It's a consortium that is divided in a way of enablers, stakeholders, and followers. It has companies that has a great experience on the energy sector from many European countries, the UK, Poland, Italy, Austria, Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, the UK, I hope I'm not forgetting, Slovenia as well, I hope I'm not forgetting somebody. This was the objective of the project. Now, the objective of this first webinar actually is the first step for the transferring of the experience on existing policies and schemes of energy efficiency in the industry by the more experienced European Union countries to countries who are still consolidating their actions, mainly with the Energy Efficiency Directive obligation. So the aim is to provide a lookout of such schemes and politics in the European Union with practical examples of implementations. The webinar is mainly targeted to local policy makers. the aim, the scope is to support them for building energy efficiency schemes that will work effectively for the industries in their countries. This is the first of the three webinars that are going to be implemented during the project. The second one is targeting to the energy efficiency implementations in industries, focusing on the good practices. So there will be an analysis of multi-sectoral efficiency trends in order to identify the needs in the European Union industry, and the target is to show the potential of the efficiency in the manufacturing process by providing examples of good practices that has been done in the under the EU MERS investigations. At this point as well, the input of all participants is very important. The second webinar is targeted to European national industry associations and companies in general. Then we have another webinar, the webinar C, which the title is Energy Efficiency Implementation in National Targeted Industries. And then the approach is for the good practices. The sector-specific analysis of trends and needs of the efficiency in the most energy-intensive sectors will be the focus of this webinar. And again, we will present related good practices of energy efficiency projects, which will gather this information under the EU MERSI implementation. This webinar is targeted to national sector-specific industry, associations, and companies. Capacity building is a specific domain that EU MERSI is focusing, and the point is the organization of local workshops where the sector-by-sector and process-by-process good practices will be proposed and discussed with the relevant stakeholders. So the main tool that we use is the exchange of information, analysis, and basically spreading the good practices so it can be duplicated. This is why the stakeholder community is important to be as solid and big as is possible, so that we can actually identify the good practices and spread it as more as possible. That's why we encourage you, all of you that we're happy to have you with us today, to join the EU MERSI project. You can see the site of the project. Here is the email as well, and in the website you can find these special sectors where you can share your best practice or join the stakeholder community or subscribe to our newsletter in order to be in touch with all the news and upcoming information and projects that we have. So this is more or less a small introduction to the project and this webinar. And here you can see the agenda of the today's webinar. Sorry. First, there will be an introduction on the European Union framework for the energy efficiency in industry. Then an overall analysis of the implementation of pros and cons of adapted schemes and mechanisms. Some best practices, some examples of implementations from people that had participated in the EU MERSI data sets. And finally, the presentation of some of the results of a survey that has been done in order for industries, companies and associations in the European Union, so that we can see more or less the needs and the trends of the current status. Finally, there will be a question and answer session, so that any clarifications needed is provided. Thank you again for being with us. Hope that this will be a fruitful webinar, and that you will join our community furthermore for the rest of our actions.
Okay, thank you very much, Effie, for this introduction to the project and the contents of this webinar and the ones that will follow in the next months. I will give you an overview of EU policies that deals with energy efficiency in the industrial sector. By the way, the registration of this webinar, together with all the presentations from the speakers, will be available on our website and on the YouTube channel of the UMercy project. So you will find everything in the next days if you need to. We cover the industrial sector, which is responsible more or less of 1/4 of the energy consumption and 1/5 of the in GHG emissions, if we exclude the power sector. So it's an important one, and of course we need policies in order to ensure that this sector contributes to the overall targets, environmental and energy targets of the European Union, and also that will be in line with the ambitious targets set by the Paris Agreement in 2015. Presently, there are three main directives that are linked with energy and the industrial sector. The first one is the Energy Efficiency Directive that promotes energy efficiencies, energy efficiency and energy management tools, set obligations in terms of energy efficiency and energy consumption, both at European level, at national level, and introduces a lot of support policies for energy efficiency. Secondly, there is the Industrial Emission Directive, which is mainly, which has mainly an environmental aim, of course, but it is integrated a lot with energy and energy efficiency. And lastly, there is the emission trading scheme that covers some of the most important industrial sectors and, of course, limits the GHG emissions and allows for trading of emission quota among EU countries and among EU enterprises. Besides, of course, there are many directives and regulations that impacts either directly or indirectly the industrial sector, for example, by setting minimum requirements, think about electrical motors, lighting, and so on, or, for example, by setting requirements and obligation for other sectors that in some way requires a change of products and services from the manufacturing industries. The European Union also implemented many programs and initiatives that gives money, finance energy efficiency, and also support the development of pilot projects, good practices, and so on. So there is a complete framework that cover the energy sector for industries. I will give you some information on the IED that are of interest for energy efficiency. As you probably know, the IED requires that every enterprises in the sectors covered by the directive shall be compliant with the best available techniques that are set in particular documents called brief reference, that are developed by the Joint Research Center's IPPC group. Currently, there are 31 briefs that are listed in and that can be downloaded by the JRC website, and also 10 conclusions that are decisions from the European Commissions that illustrates the best available techniques available in the particular sector. Every of these brief or BATs contains a lot of useful information with regard to the most interesting applications that can be used to reduce both the emission pollution and also the energy consumption. And in particular, I underline the existence of the energy efficiency brief that can give some useful hint to every company that is interested in carrying on energy efficiency interventions. And by the way, BATs can be also interesting for policies, because they can set some reference both for the consumption baselines, so for additionality requirements, or for deciding which kind of process or projects to be admissible to incentive schemes, for example. More important is, of course, the Energy Efficiency Directive. I will just give you some brief overview, first of all, of Article 7, that sets the mandatory targets for each country. In particular, each country is required to improve by 1.5% annually its energy efficiency, and it's important to notice that only additional savings can be accounted to this respect. So the presentation from Erwin Hoffman will show our comparative report on industry-relevant energy efficiency policies and give you some interesting information, because even if most of these policies deals with the building sector, there are at least 3 countries, that are Denmark, France, and Italy, in which important policies were able to effectively support the implementation of energy efficiency projects within the industrial sector. So policies can be good to facilitate the promotion of energy efficiency in the industrial sector. Secondly, among the policy tools, energy audits that are mandatory for non-SME enterprises starting from December 2015. So every 4 years, these large companies shall implement an energy audit. And this is interesting because the number of enterprises that are covered by this article is quite huge. A lot of these enterprises, of course, come from the industrial sector. So by implementing this article, industries will have important information on the opportunity to improve energy efficiency in their sites, and also the analysis of the information related to the audits can give interesting information to policymakers and facilitate the improvement of current policies. And by the way, this obligation can be avoided if the organizations have implementing an energy management system, for example, under ISO 50001 standard. This is a very important tool because well implemented an energy management system changed the approach of organization toward energy efficiency and makes it no more just an opportunity to reduce cost, but also a strategic factor linked with the core business of the company, and so capable or really make the enterprises more competitive. Finally, just two words about the path toward 2030. So the next horizon set by the European Commission, by the proposed winter package just 3 months ago, the energy efficiency target in particular has been raised to 30%, starting from 27%. And there are at least two proposals that will impact directly the industrial sector. One is the proposal of revision of electricity market. This is very important because the electricity market has changed a lot in the last years with renewable energy sources and so on. And of course, the electricity market set the price that covers most of the cost, the energy cost of industrial enterprises. And secondly, there will be the new emission trading scheme starting from year 2020. It will be, of course, quite impacting on the industrial sector. Last, allow me to just show you the results from a study carried on by ICF in 2015 on behalf of the European Commission that calculated an economic potential from the industrial sector of about 10% of energy savings in 2050, and compared with 20% more or less of technical potential. This is interesting because it said by just implementing energy efficiency, the contribution for the industrial sector will be quite limited in the next 30 years. So it is quite important to think about industrial processes, the supply chain, the products and the services that the manufacturing industries produces, because it is by their change that we will be able to really produce the targets expected by the Paris Agreement. To conclude, policies is a very important part of this path. It is not the only one. It is important to notice that among the interesting news by the Energy Efficiency Directive, there is the fact that it promotes a lot of energy management tools like energy audit, energy management system, measurement and verification, and so on. And the UMERCI project will contribute to facilitate this transition, both by offering a repository of good practices divided by industrial sector, and also by providing information on effective policies. And you will get some hints about this in the following presentations. So thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm going to give the floor to Erwin Hoffmann from GIN, that will show you one of our first deliverables, the report on the analysis of implementation of the energy policies in EU. Please, Erwin.
Thank you very much. Let's see if, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, as Dario already introduced, I will present an overview of the industry-relevant energy efficiency policies as they were implemented based on the Energy Efficiency Directive Article 7 in the 28 EU member states as well as Norway. This report was prepared by us at JIN in the Netherlands together with my colleagues Christina Sendrij and Vlasis Oikonomou, with input of course also from the UMERCI partners from other countries. Well, this was already mentioned by Dario, that industry is a key sector with 26% of final energy use in the EU. And also, well, the importance in this case for Article 7 of the EED was already mentioned. And therefore, we have published this report, the comparative report on technical specificities of EEOs and alternative measures for the EED in these 29 countries as mentioned. And I will now just give a short overview of this report and some of the conclusions. But the report itself is available on the UMERCI website. As mentioned, under the Article 7 of the EED, countries could implement both energy efficiency obligation schemes or alternative measures. And considering that many of the countries have implemented alternative measures, and some countries, such as the Netherlands, has implemented dozens of alternative measures under this article. We have decided not to focus on all measures that have been implemented and all policies, but to focus it on the key policies per country, with a maximum of 4 key energy efficiency policies that are really relevant to the industry sector for each country. And based on these criteria, the criteria were, amongst others, the amount of savings that these policies are expected to achieve. We have identified in total 71 key measures for each of the countries together, the 29 countries. And then we have analyzed all of these policies based on the literature review and expert consultations. And we have talked mainly with the people implementing these policies from the ministries in the member states. And we have used also outputs of previous EU projects, such as the ENSPOL project, the MURE project, and the Multi-E project. And on the next slide, I will show that we have described all of these in a uniform template, so that if you read the report, you can easily see the same kind of information about all of these 71 policies. Starting with a short description of this policy, and then a table with some key information, such as the lifetime of the measure. Many of the policies have been implemented in recent years and are applicable up to 2020. The target groups, and then of course it is important in this case that the target groups include the industrial sector, target technologies, target energy savings, and then more in detail explanation of how were the energy saving calculation methods arranged for these measures, what kind of data was required, and how are the MRV processes done. And as I mentioned, this report was created in the initial stages of EU Merci last year, and this is before the EED recast of the end of last year, and some policies in the member states are currently being adapted, but that has not been included yet in this report. This map gives a quick overview of what have the countries done based on this Article 7 to implement their policies. And then you can see the countries in green, which are only 5, are the countries that have only implemented an energy efficiency obligation scheme. I will explain more about it in a bit. So these are Denmark, Lithuania, Poland, Hungary, and Luxembourg. And these have implemented an EEO scheme without any alternative measures. Then there are 11 more countries shown in yellow that have also implemented an EEO scheme that is relevant to the industrial sector, but they have combined this with several alternative measures. And finally, there are 13 countries shown in gray that have only implemented alternative measures. And here it is important to note that this is on the industry relevant EEOs, so countries that have implemented an energy efficiency obligation scheme that is only relevant to households, such as the UK, are shown in gray here anyway, because for industry only the alternative measures are relevant. Then coming to the energy efficiency obligation schemes, as mentioned before, these were the 5 that have only implemented the EEO, and then 11 more that have combined it with alternative measures. And a good example of an EEO scheme is implemented in Italy, a white certificate obligation scheme. And I've just listed here for the example a few of its characteristics, how it is implemented in practice. That there is an obligation on electricity and gas distributor companies that have more than 50,000 customers to reduce their energy use. And Italy's scheme is focused on all end-use sectors, so it also includes clearly the industry sector. And based on discussions also with the ministry in Italy, it seems that industry is a very important sector for these electricity and gas distributors, because the industry sector is easier to reach for them than, for example, the household sector. Then all types of technologies and measures that reduce energy or that lead to energy savings are eligible in the Italian scheme, and this is not in all schemes, because if you see, for example, in the French scheme, only hard technologies are eligible. And so in the French scheme, for example, behavioral change is is not one of the measures that is eligible under the energy efficiency obligation scheme. Within Italy it is. And to give you an idea of the, I've listed the target savings of this measure here in Italy over the period from 2014 to 2020. So in addition to these EEO schemes, most of the countries have implemented alternative measures. So these are the 13 countries that have only implemented alternative measures, together with 11 that have combined it with an EEO. This overview here of the types of alternative measures, and especially the numbers, just gives an idea of the importance of the types of alternative measures. But as said, it is based on maximum 4 policies per country. So, for example, the 40 policies of the Netherlands are not all taken into account here. So this is just to give an idea that financial support and information and training measures are used more than, for example, voluntary agreements. So as said, the financial measures are the most important. So in here I have explained that I have written down that the 19 countries have implemented financial support schemes. And these are, again, just some examples to get an idea of what these include, like the governmental grants and subsidy schemes in Cyprus, the Eco Fund of Slovenia, and a very important example is in Germany, the KfW investment support programs, which are support programs both for new industrial appliances, but also for improvement of existing appliances. And the criterion for financial support in this case of this alternative measure is that the energy consumption should be at least 30% lower than the mean consumption of the last 3 years. And here you can also see the target energy savings are pretty high in this case. This gives an overview again of the other types of alternative measures except for the financial schemes, with for each of them one example of such a scheme. So for example, in Austria we see an energy efficient improvement of companies in the framework of the Klimaaktiv program. And there in that program, this is an information and training program, so they have a lot of PR materials and tools to increase energy savings. Fiscal schemes, such as in Sweden, and we have legislative and regulatory schemes in various countries. And a few countries have extensive voluntary agreements with the industry, such as in the Netherlands, where they have voluntary agreements between the government and sectoral associations and individual companies to reduce energy instead of the aforementioned EEO scheme. Then, as said before, one part of this framework in which we have described all the policies in the report is the energy savings calculations. And in general, we can say that there are 4 types of basic methodologies for savings calculations. And out of these 4, actually the last one in this list, the surveyed savings, is usually only used for consumer behavior. And so in the industry sector, it is not used. But the other 3 are fairly common in different types of policies in energy efficiency in industry, which to just quickly in one sentence explain each of them is that in deemed savings, you look at ex ante defined standard values based on previous monitoring. So there is just, for example, a database or a list of expected savings which are ex ante defined. Metered savings are, well, as the word already says, ex post, based on real metering, and skilled savings are sometimes a bit of a combination, but they are based on engineering estimates. And then looking at these types of calculations, if we look in the EEO schemes, several countries have used deemed savings, but for most of the more complex technologies, which of course in industry there are a lot, deemed savings is not so appropriate because there is a lot of variety among the technologies. So then often metered savings, for example, is used. And to get back to the example of Italy that I mentioned before, there is this is kind of a common approach, such as used in Italy, to have a combined approach. That if you see simple projects, you have deemed savings, which are defined before. But if there are very complex projects, you have metered savings, and there can also be sometimes something in between, like in Italy, the scaled savings based on partly metered savings. So they will have metered savings for a part of the project, and based on that calculate the rest without metering all of it. For alternative measures, which are often focused on smaller, less complex projects, metered savings are not very common. So it is often either deemed savings or scaled savings, with the preference often for scaled savings, especially for the financial schemes. And if we look for other like voluntary agreements, have often a large range of deemed savings as part of the agreement. About monitoring and reporting, as done in the various countries, we can say a lot, but in general there are huge differences between the level of detail of the monitoring and reporting and the way this is approached. So there are actually only a few commonalities that we can discuss here, and of course in the report there is a lot of information about all the 29 countries and the different policies that they have on how they arrange this monitoring and reporting. But we can say in most cases, in most countries, it is the responsibility of the national ministries, sometimes delegated to other agencies, for example, or independent public bodies. And usually, especially in the case of EEO schemes, it is in the form of annual monitoring, for example, through energy auditing or requesting summary reports from the obligated parties. Some countries, Hungary and Poland, are a bit well, different because they have monitoring only once per 4 years. And then if we look at the financial measures, that's also mostly annually, but here again there are some exceptions, like in Sweden only every 4 years, and in Greece it is every half year, so it's more often. So, but as I said, in the report there is much more detailed information for each measure. And this is another, we have been looking at whether all the countries and the ministries already do have a database on industrial energy savings in their country. And then we could see that in 20 countries such databases were already available, and in the other countries not yet. And well, this is mainly based on personal communications with the ministries, but I would also like to say, if you know of such a database of industrial energy savings in one of the red countries in this list, then please contact us so we can update it and get in touch also with the ministry in those countries, for example. So that was a quick overview, and here are some contact details for more information, but of course the first step could be to read the report on the EUMRC website. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Erwin. Now we start with some examples that are extracted from EUMRC datasets. The first presentation is from Simone Maggiore from RSE with the Italian case.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. The goal of this presentation is to explain, to give you an overview of the Italian mechanism about energy efficiency. So, in Italy we have had for let's say a long period a strategy, a national energy strategy to improve energy efficiency, the use of renewables, to reduce CO2 emissions. And as you can see, they are all compared both with the EU target and the national energy strategy target. I mean, we have put a goal which is which is lower than the EU target, in order to improve the benefits of our policies. As you can see here, the implementation of the Energy Efficiency Directive have been, let's say, devoted to different schemes. For example, the watt certificate, which I will see more in deeply later, the incentivation scheme or tax reduction scheme. And as you can see, different measures have involved different sectors. I mean, what we have in Italy, we have a differentiation of different schemes for different sectors in order to address each sector and create something which is peculiar for a specific sector in order to allow to customize such a measure to the needs, the requirements of the specific sector, in order to help all these the end users in the specific sector to increase the benefits by using such measure. As you can see here, industry, the most important, let's say, measure to improve the energy efficiency index is the watt certificate mechanism, while all the other, for example, all the other standard, like tax relief, is more effective for residential and tertiary sector. So, watt certificate mechanism has been in place for more than 20 years. Nowadays, it's a consolidated mechanism which is basically allows the savings by different methods, and one watt certificate mechanism is equal to one saved ton of oil equivalent, and the medium price at which they are sold on the market is about 100 euros. There are three different types. I mean, I don't want to go more in detail, but what is more important is that watt certificate allows different types of measurement and verification methods in order to let the industrial end user to choose which is the most appropriate one he can apply. For example, there are dim saving, which are they require no measurement, but they're very, very simple to make, so they allow simple verification. While there are, for more complex projects, the end user can opt for a plan, a monitoring plan and verification scheme, and also the savings are reported on a 6-month or a year average. And the most important thing is that only we consider only additional saving. Only we don't incentivize those savings which are related, for example, to the natural obsolescence of a technology, but only those which are additional are incremental to the current market average. This allows only to take into account only real savings, not savings which would have been done anyway without, therefore without incentivizing something which should not deserve an incentive. And this mechanism is consolidating, and also here at RSC we have participated both in the creation of the measurement, but also we participate here in the current evaluation of these projects. And as you can see, there are a lot of information to be filled, to be given by the proponent of the proposals, starting from general information, but there are specific information on the energy efficiency project. And in particular, there is a detailed description of the measurement program. I mean, we have to understand what was the situation before the intervention, how it is related to the market average, what are the characteristics of the intervention implemented, how the savings are measured with all the tools, the algorithms, and after that, how is the persistence of the saving, if there is like a decay of the saving for different measures. And all this information are very important because they allow to classify a measure and therefore give the right amount of incentive, which is differentiated based on the value, on how a measure is precious with respect to the goals of energy efficiency. As I said before, this is a consolidated mechanism in which there is the end users who asks for watt certificate, then this project is evaluated by different entities. Then after a certificate is issued, it is sold on the market, like on a regulated spot market, and after that the certificate is sold and the money can be earned by the proponent. Otherwise, this mechanism is also flexible. because there can be bilateral agreements between different parties, and which they agree by between themselves to sell a certain amount of white certificate, and the other one agrees to buy a certain. So these bilateral agreements are complementary. Therefore, as I said before, this is very flexible and allows both multiple options for the end user. As you can see here, the number of white certificate issues and the relative savings is increased over the year. Basically, there's a steady increase. Now this is the figure which is related to the last year. And this shows that the mechanism is still effective, and although there is a minor decrease in the amount of savings, we can say that the mechanism is still effective, and end users are still using it. It is producing results. Of course, it's because now it's reached like a functional structure. So, if we want to relate these white certificate mechanisms, as you can see here, more than 50% of the white certificate issues belong to the industrial sector. This is why I said before that this is the most important measure for the industrial sector. And most of them are related to the industrial thermal section. These are different categories. I don't want to go in detail. While the percentage of interventions, which is basically related to industrial electrics, to the electric part, are still a small part. This shows that should be an improvement of this mechanism. But by the way, the mechanism has produced considerable results. So, if we want to classify the different mechanisms, this is a very effective mechanism. If we compare the amounts of money spent by the state and the savings in return for the whole country, and therefore, as it is a market scheme, I mean, the white certificates are bought and sold on the market. It is also subject to market rule. And therefore, it is a market that selects both the technologies and the sector. Therefore, this allows the most effective measure to be incentivized and promoted, thus excluding those trivial measures which also are not effective. This mechanism, of course, evolved during 10 years of experience. And we can say that this mechanism is also still effective. It is the most important one. It is a mechanism we are proud of having this mechanism in Italy, because there is a lot of participation, both from the private sector, because there are a lot of energy saving companies which are involved, which are defined by a regulatory framework, and there are many industries who find this mechanism as an important opportunity to invest their money. And as I said before, as the impact on the public finances is positive, this mechanism, of course, has still room to be improved, but the balance is very positive. And yeah, I want to show that we have used our experience in the white certificate mechanism. We want to show here some examples of projects which have been incentivized using this white certificate mechanism, and which would be the base upon which the analysis of Umersi will be produced. As you can see, there are several records in the database of the database, and I want to show here an example. For example, take here the glass sector in Italy. As you can see here, there are different. Our database covers almost the totality of the industry plants in Italy. Therefore, we can say that our coverage of this sector of industry is almost complete. Therefore, all the conclusion will derive related to the industrial, to the glass sector in Italy, thanks to the analysis of Umersi project, will be general, and therefore can be applied to the whole system, and do all the lesson which will derive all that recommendation which we find thanks to this analysis can be applied also to can be extended also both to other countries, but they have a value, especially in Italy. As you can see here, the most important is melting, and therefore there are a high frequency of revamping interventions. But this is because melting is involved only in the most energy expensive space. But this gives us an idea of what are the most profitable sectors, and therefore, if we realize that there are some phases which were profitable, but they're convenient, but they're not used very much by the end user, I mean, this can be a way to improve the mechanism. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Simone. Now it's the turn of Miles McCarthy from the Carbon Trust.
Hello there. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly.
Is it possible for somebody to put my slides up, please? Or is that something?
You can do it by sharing your screen. Just open the presentation and share your screen.
Okay. It just.
Perché abbiamo il nostro, facciamo una share. È interessante. Non ce faccio. Boh. Non può forzarlo. Sì, perché non l'ho forzato lui.
Is there another speaker that goes after me? Because it might be.
Okay.
I'm going to take my time to find my slides.
Okay, Marcus, are you ready?
Can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Miles, no, Marco.
Yeah, I'm ready. If you like, I can go.
So if you can start, in the meantime, Miles will be able to resolve his technical problems. So please, Marcus, thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
And so you can see the whole presentation because I started the presentation already and I used a split screen, so I'm not sure if I showcased
no,
the right.
we don't see the full screen, but the traditional.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
It's okay because we can see nevertheless the presentation, so you can use this. Please.
Okay. I try to fix it first.
Try to start the. Okay.
So maybe like this. Okay, so I'm sorry for that. So thank you, Dario, and hello, ladies and gentlemen. Markus Hofmann is speaking. I'm from Austria, from the Austrian Energy Agency, and I'm very pleased to present to you today the most important Austrian energy efficiency policy and schemes for industry, and give you a short overview of how it is done in Austria. Let's see. So I'm sorry for that, but as you can see here, let's start with the Energy Efficiency Act in Austria. This figure shows the Austrian 2020 target, and for Austria it is which is 1050 petajoule of final energy consumption. This means in regards to the business as usual scenario, calculated from the Primes model in 2007 in Austria. This means for 2020 a final energy consumption of 310 petajoule. And this target should be reached in Austria through so-called alternative measures and obligation of energy suppliers. This was mentioned before in the previous presentations. So we have both. We have the alternative measures and also obligations for energy suppliers. So in 2015, the final energy consumption of Austria was slightly below 1,100 petajoules, so we are right on track to reach that goal. The alternative measures are more focused for public bodies or federal states and and government. So this is not really the focus today. So it's related to energy saving effects from taxes or information campaigns and subsidy schemes and programs. So today I want to focus more on the obligation of energy suppliers and what consequences this has in Austria. And so when we look on the obligation for energy suppliers, we have in this area, we have 3 main target groups. So it's the energy supplier itself, which is really obligated to save energy. And we have the large enterprises or the enterprises, the industry enterprises, which are obliged to deal with energy efficiency and are indirectly motivated, let's say motivated, to implement energy saving measures, as I will explain on the next slides. And we have the service providers, the experts who consult the companies and are authorized to verify the savings of measures. And when we look on the energy suppliers, the energy suppliers, so if you have who is really obliged to save energy, if you are each energy supplier who has more than 25 gigawatt hours of transported or sold energy per year is obliged to save 0.6 of its energy through measures. And these measures may have been put in place by the energy supplier itself, so at his own company, his own buildings or sites, or by his own customers or any other customers. So basically end users and consumers, household and industry sector. Interesting side information is that 40% of the 0.6% should be saved in households and the rest in industry and other places, so to say. When we talk about measures, so we said 0.6 of the sold energy has to be saved through measures. A measure in Austria can be credited in principle if it can lead to measured or estimated reductions in consumption of final energy. So this is very important. It's not only it doesn't have to be measured all the time. Can also be estimated. And also very important is to assess the impact of the measure. 2 ways are possible. It's through generalized methods or individual methods. And general methods provide standardized savings for a variety of applications. As you can see here, all these are areas for standardized saving calculations. So in total, at the moment, we have about 42 methods in Austria in these areas, which can be combined to about 250 use cases. And beside that, an individual assessment can be done, but it's only permitted if no generalized method exists for a specific application, or there can be reasons, technical reasons to be found against its use. But this has to be explained to the national monitoring body. So the main focus is that the measures are based on standardized calculation methods. As you can see here in this figure, this is shows the implemented measures in 2014 and 2015, so a sum of 2 years. Until 2015, there have been 30,849 measures implemented, which are coming from the obliged energy suppliers and also from alternative measures. And most of the measures have been implemented in heating systems and hot water, but also lighting, and also measures without category, which are the individual measures, so not standardized measures. So a lot of industry measures also will be in this area. And if you are a large enterprise in Austria, you are also obliged to do something to deal with the topic of energy efficiency, but you're not actually obliged to save energy. But first, how do I know if I'm a large enterprise? So 3 criteria is important here: the number of employees, the turnover, and the balance sheet. And so a combination of those tells you if you are a small or medium enterprise or a large enterprise and obliged to the Energy Efficiency Act. And in summary, you can say if your numbers of employees are above 249, you are a large enterprise. If your employee number is below, both has to be, as both turnover and balance sheet has to be above the values to be an obliged enterprise, a large and obliged enterprise. So if you are, you have to do an energy audit. And you can do it by following 2 ways to do that. The first way would be if you have implemented a certified energy or an environmental management system, so like ISO 50001 or ISO 14001, you can, if you have such an management system running, or you implement one, you can then have to choose to have an internal energy audit, but you need to have the qualified employees within your company. So they have to be educated or a specific amount of experience. If you don't have an certified energy or environmental management system, you have to do an external audit through an external energy auditor. And these audits have to be repeated at least every 4 years. So for both paths, you have to do it every 4 years. And if you are a small and medium enterprise, it's a smaller thing. You have to do an energy advice audit. So it's very general audit, small audit, you can say, where you identify the main energy consumptions areas in your company. And within these audits, also the auditor needs to present possible energy measures and savings for the company. So this was it for the Energy Efficiency Act in Austria. And now I also want to present to you 2 other important schemes which foster somehow the energy efficiency projects in industry in Austria. And it's the Kommunalkredit public consulting and the Klimaaktiv program for energy efficient companies. So let's start with the Kommunalkredit public consulting. This is the KPC is the environmental subsidy scheme for the federal government in Austria. So the main target group is enterprises. Until 1993, there are a lot of projects that have been funded through KPC. And a lot of money is involved, 1.1 billion euros, mostly spent on renewable and efficiency measures. So you can see here approximately 45 to 50 millions only on renewable and the rest on efficiency projects coming from federal grants. And the KPC acts also as national co-financing instrument for the ERDF and EAFRD of the European Union. So a few figures. This is important. Eligible technologies. So if you are a company who wants to implement a measure, what are the eligible technologies? You can ask for a subsidy. So KPC deals with the energy supply side. Mobility is a topic, and energy saving and others. So it starts from generating energy to mobility to 100% energy saving projects, and also others, meaning prevention of air pollution, reduction of waste, and so on. So for the EU Mercy project, of course, the energy saving area is of special interest within the project, and we are using information and data mostly out of this area. And some other figures here, as you can see, how many supported projects again for the different years. In 2013 it was we can say half of the supported projects are related to renewable energies and the other one to energy efficiency. And also the amount of the financial support in million euros. So you can see about 49 million euros spent on renewable energies and about 30 million spent on energy efficiency, and it's more or less the same. A small reduction for the renewable energies, focusing more on the energy efficiency measures. Within the EU Mercy project, we use the information coming out of the energy saving area from KPC. So in total, we have about 1,300 measures we can analyze in more detail. And we decided within EU Mercy that we will focus on specific sectors according to the NES classes. So C2 to C26, and when we focus on that, we have about 850 measures we can analyze in detail within the EU Mercy project. What kind of information comes from the original data set? So a lot of information fields gathered by KPC for the measures. In general, you can say that, or in summary, you can say that a lot of information is available in regard to costs of the measures and savings related to the energy carriers. So this is very good. What is a little bit of a concern or challenge within the project is the measurement description of these projects are not so detailed as we would like them to be. So some challenges to overcome by analyzing this information. Also, no baseline information basically given by this measure. So no information what was the situation before implementing the measure. In comparison to the KPC, I want to present another scheme in Austria, the Klimaaktiv scheme. So it was also mentioned before. Klimaaktiv is a huge program for end consumers in Austria, where a lot of different actions and projects or initiatives are derived. One of it has as a target group the industry companies, and it's called the Energy Efficiency Companies Program. And the main focus of this program is awareness raising for energy efficiency in industry. So we foster to the implementation of the energy management systems according to ISO 50001. We also foster the real implementation of efficiency measures in industrial enterprises in cooperation with the Austrian Energy Agency or partners of the Austrian Energy Agency. And we are working intensively on standardized energy audits. So what elements should have an energy audit? What should be done to guarantee some kind of quality of energy audits? And we also offer through Klimaaktiv standardized trainings for energy experts or energy auditors, specializing on specific technologies like, for example, ventilation systems or pump systems or compressed air systems and so on. So we have about 10 to 11 technology groups where we offer training in these areas to energy experts. And here you can see a few results. So since 2006, we trained about 1,800 participants, and we gathered, and this is very important for the EU Mercy program or project, 230 best practice examples. So with this best practice examples, there was a lot of energy saved, 718 gigawatt hours, and also CO2 emissions involved. And as you can see here, some pictures of the yearly energy award. So every year there's an energy award. When you are a company and you have a measure implemented on your site, you can submit this measure and it will be evaluated by a jury. And if it's highly innovative measure, then it will be awarded. And it will become a best practice example. And you get a nice picture with the Austrian minister. And so this information is very important for us in the EU Mercy project. This is the information we can work with. And based on the time frame we focused within EU Mercy, for the Klimaaktiv data, we have about 92 132 records in total. And if we focus again on the specific NAS classes, it's about 92 records we can analyze in more detail. And information coming from Klimaaktiv E-Betriebe-Programm is also quite interesting. A lot of information is given. It's a little bit the other way around in comparison to the KPC data. So we have very good information on measurement description. So we know very detailed what has been done. But we have other issues like energy savings per energy carrier. We don't have information about that, or also about the NAS codes for the company NAS codes for the specific sectors. So also challenges here, but on the measurement description side, it's very interesting information available. And I think that's my last slide, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus. I hope that Miles has been able to solve this technical problem. Is that so, Miles? Yeah. Perfect,
hello there, can you see me? Can you see my slide?
Perfectly.
That's
Please
great. Apologies for earlier, I didn't realize I was showing the slides. So thank you, everyone. Good to speak to everyone. My name is Miles McCarthy from Carbon Trust here in the UK, and I'm the Director of Implementation here at the Carbon Trust. Just to set the scene a little bit on UK in this area, we have the Climate Change Act of 2008, which sets the country's ambitions and targets for both reductions in greenhouse gas emissions and, importantly, also addressing risks associated with adaptation for climate change. And so within this act are setting targets of reductions of greenhouse gas emissions by at least 80% by 2050, as well as setting out those risks and checks and balances to address issues related to climate change. Off the back of that, obviously with long-term targets, 2050, there is a danger that things are left and it's a long way in the distance. So there have been some pathways set to ensure that there is a slow and steady progress made over the coming 30 plus years to achieve those targets. So we have, UK government has set a 5-year stepping stone carbon budgets to ensure that the trajectory is set for all aspects of the economy to achieve the emission reductions. And in terms of addressing temperature changes, biodiversity, flood defences, there are national adaptation plans as well to look at those mitigation risks. Those adaptation risks. In terms of monitoring, there is an independent organisation, Committee on Climate Change, independent of government, who have their own budget and are an advisor providing independent view to government and recommendations to government on what should be set and what should be achieved along this trajectory for UK economy between now and 2050. And I mentioned earlier the stepping stones, the 5-year carbon budgets. This slide is a little bit out of date. There have now been set 5 legislation in place for 5 carbon budgets, including the 5th one there in 2030. So the idea is that Parliament sets and legislates 12 years in advance carbon budgets to be met, carbon reductions to be met. And it is a statutory and legal obligation for the government to legislate on that in the coming years. And they set those 12 years in advance so that there is sufficient time to address the actions that are needed across the different elements of the economy to meet as a combined that level of trajectory. And you can see here progress to date. 2015 was close to 40% reduction, so halfway there by 2015, but obviously a long way to go and a lot to achieve. And this chart here just shows the differences in the pace of change by sector, and you can see on the bottom the red line is the projected progress being made by the power sector. Obviously technology is more advanced in this area and the alternative approaches are clearer, so it's possible for this sector to move more quickly than some of the others. And of course the power sector needs to lead in the economy other sectors and other areas to decarbonize. So for example, transport with electric vehicles and electric heating, which is going to be an important aspect of buildings here in the UK over the coming years, obviously needs to build on an already significantly decarbonized grid. So there is an expectation that the power grid will decarbonize and will achieve more quickly, and you can see there some of the other sectors. And if we look at industry as a particular focus, it is more back-ended than other sectors such as buildings. And we can just look at the next slide and see some of the government's views on areas where technology is likely to come in as an importance to achieve some of these trajectories. And if we look at industry, certainly there's a lot of expected win-win opportunities in terms of achieving best energy efficiency best practice in industry, and that should provide a year-on-year 1% per year reduction in emissions. But from mid-2030s onwards, obviously new innovation, new R&D, and areas such as CCS are seen as a key technology unblockers to continue a trajectory that goes above and beyond best practice and what current and expected technology can achieve today in some of the key industries. So that hopefully sets a little bit of landscape in terms of the UK for everyone. Just in terms of progress to date and a little bit about the Carbon Trust, if I may. It's related in that back in 2001, the UK government set a new climate change levy on energy used in the non-domestic sectors, and this was in effect a tax on energy delivered from the 1st of April 2001. And there was a requirement or need or encouragement from industry that some of those monies are used then to help industry to reduce, and business to reduce their energy intensity and energy consumption. And so some of the funding received by the UK government through the climate change levy was used to both set up and fund some programs to support business and industry, and that was the creation of the Carbon Trust. And if you look at the types of things that we do to support business and industry in achieving their sustainability goals, we deliver advice, and that is to businesses, to industries, but also to the public sector, non-domestic areas, and government and governments around the world as well. We also do a lot of work measuring and certifying the environmental footprints of organisations, of companies, of their products and services from cradle to grave. And although our initial focus was on carbon and energy, that has broadened to also include water and waste these days. And very importantly, deployment of both new and existing technologies, both for energy efficiency and renewables. And a lot of our work and a lot of the programs we've done over the many years with key industries and technology providers has been to both raise the awareness of current technologies that can deliver cost-effective savings, but also to help support the development of new technologies and introduce new innovation into industries, which I'll just briefly touch on in a bit later on. Just an example of the scale of programs that we've run here in the UK, and in particular for this project in the EU Horizon 2020, the data sources that we're using for real projects that have been implemented across many sectors, industrial sectors, manufacturing and others, comes from that middle block, which has been the largest program that we've run in terms of delivering advice, and that has been our energy efficiency advice programs over the years 2002 to 2010. Post 2010, UK government has determined that industries should support themselves in terms of gaining advice on implementation and an identification of opportunities for energy efficiency. But in that period of time, we supported, as can be seen on this chart, 35,000 businesses in terms of direct support on identifying the most cost-effective opportunities for energy savings. What's very interesting with this chart is to see that the size of the investment in advice, in particular direct advice, less than £100 million, actually led to a leverage of investment by business of over £1.6 billion in new equipment, new energy efficient equipment, and that equipment itself then led to a significantly larger, which is obviously good for the business case, a significantly larger energy saving, five plus billion pounds of energy saving. So in terms of for the businesses, for the industries, investing in energy efficiency is a very clear and very strong business case if they get it right, and for governments and for industries as a whole, investing in good quality advice, both in terms of identifying and implementing opportunities, there's a very good, extremely good leverage in terms of both investment and savings. I mentioned earlier deployment of best practice and also innovation, and we have used some of the government funding available through the climate change levy receipts to support individual sectors, individual manufacturing and industrial sectors. And you can see at the bottom of the chart here 14 sectors that we have supported directly and specifically through this model. And the idea of this, what we call the Energy Efficiency Accelerator model, is to work with a community of businesses working in the same sector and to share some of the opportunities, the best practice, and try and profile where the industry is at in terms of adoption of key cost-effective energy-saving solutions. And once then the industry has visibility of what the opportunity size is and where those opportunities are, we also then start to look beyond best practice, current best practice, and say, okay, but what about new innovations that can come along and deliver even further greater savings? And so this project and the reports for all of these sectors can be found on our website. If you look under Industrial Energy Efficiency Accelerator, go into a lot of detail around where those opportunities are, how the sectors are currently performing, and where there may be new opportunities for new innovations to come into those sectors. And again, it's very effective and impactful if industries as a whole can work on these areas together, because a lot of these projects do require investment, do require a demonstration of technologies, but the findings and the proven models then can be replicated quite substantially across the industries and benefit the industry in that country as a whole. And this is a model that we've deployed initially in the UK across 14 sectors, but we're now seeing quite a lot of application in other countries who are keen to look at how they can improve the cost competitiveness as well as the environmental performance of their key sectors. And so we've applied this in the brick industry in South Africa, in mining industries in Latin America, and various others. So the model works very well, and the important aspect is to have a convener who can bring together competing companies within a sector to work together on this area to benefit the sector as a whole in that country. And finally, just to give a small flavour of the sort of policy landscape and policies here in the UK and how they're evolving, in terms of the non-domestic space, some of the key impacts in terms of energy and carbon reductions have been achieved in that non-domestic sector through in priority order building regulations. Obviously buildings is a key aspect, and tightening of building regulations and building performance has been an important aspect. ESOS recently, Energy Saving Opportunity Scheme, which comes off European regulation. This is for the larger companies, obliging them to identify opportunities across their industrial processes, across their buildings and across their transport. And we've just completed the first wave of the ESOS scheme here in the UK, and that has had has created quite a lot of activity in the market, certainly for identifying of opportunities, but no obligations at present for that scheme to require implementation, unfortunately, but that may come down the line. CRC, carbon reduction commitment, is something that's been running for a number of years now, and was targeting the non-energy intensive industries who have significant consumption, and initially was designed to have both a cost impact on those companies for scale of emissions, but also was looking to have a league table in place, and in fact did initially start with a league table in place to try and begin to bring in some form of reporting and external awareness of how companies were performing in this area. And that's an area that certainly seemed to require, could be an area that could be expanded and would deliver greater board engagement and drive for change and improvement. Other areas include CCL, CRCs. This is the climate change levy, and climate change agreements. So these are, as I mentioned earlier, the CCL was in effect a tax put on energy use, and climate change agreements are, I think it's 51 umbrella agreements that key energy intensive industries have negotiated with government to reduce their costs around CCL, but the agreements require them then to deliver significant energy savings and carbon saving reductions within their processes over time. Hopefully that gives a little flavour of where the UK government is, some of the support programmes that we have delivered here in the UK, and some of the policy use regulations that have been used over time.
Okay. Thank you, Miles. Now it's the turn, it's up to Michael Barr to illustrate the last example.
Hi, hello, can you see me?
Yes.
My
perfectly.
screen, I mean?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes.
Please go on.
Hello, my name is Michał Bar. I represent KAPE, the Polish agency that is a partner in the EU Mercy project. I will tell you shortly about energy efficiency policies and schemes in the Polish industry. So the Polish energy efficient obligation was implemented in 2012. Despite the directives we had in 2006, 2009, we implemented the first obligation in 2012. The same year, the European Parliament created a new directive that required each member states to change the energy efficiency laws, and that required put a pressure on Polish government to change the white certificate system again. I'm writing here only about the old Energy Efficiency Act, because we are using this act and the results of this act in EU Mercy project. We have in operation a new act that was released last year in May, but the program has started at the last quarter on 2016, but we don't have the data yet on a new energy efficiency measures that was created by the created by the new Act on Energy Efficiency. To describe you the system, how it works, we have obligated parties that are required to purchase and show the president of IRO to show to the president of IRO the parties are mostly the producers and distributors of electric, gas, and heat energy. Some of the required amount is obligated by the trading houses that trades on gas, electric, and heat as well. So to describe you how the system works in Poland, the IRO president is getting the information about the energy efficiency measures that were implemented and is distributing the white certificates. When the company gets the white certificate, they register it in Polish power market and the Polish exchange, on the Polish power exchange, where they can sell it. On the Polish power exchange, mostly the final users are selling the white certificates to obligated parties. So the obligated parties are supposed to buy the white certificates and report them to Euro president. If they fail to do so, they may have to they will get a penalty for not fulfilling the required amount. If they fail to obtain enough white certificates on the Polish Power Exchange, they have to pay fee to National Fund of Environmental Protection and Water Management, which is gathering the money in order to create a new projects, new areas and subsidies that will help to distribute the money back to the circulation. The money is supposed to go on energy efficiency measures. So far, we had a few editions of programs, but we don't have public data that we can use in EU Mercy from the National Fund of Environmental Protection. To show you how big was the market interest in white certificates, I will show you how the tenders that were in Poland, how big was the distribution of white certificates. In the first tender that took place in 2012, we had only 3% of the available white certificates distributed. Next year we had only 4%. The reason of the small interest was the bad information on the market and available programs and available modernization. And with each and with next years the information was spread out by companies that started in the tenders and auditors companies. So with each next year the tenders were more popular. The last tender that was finished in 2016 had more than 25% of allocated white certificates distributed. The fifth tender that started in October 2016 is not finished yet, but we estimate that around 80% of allocated white certificates will be distributed through this tender. Unfortunately we have to wait for the president of IRO to give this information to public. We cannot obtain the information until the tender is finished and all the energy efficiency audits are checked and verified. I said at the beginning that we have the change in white certificate system. As you saw, we had a tender each year, which required a company to wait a very long time for report the energy efficiency measure. So with the new law in place, we hope that when the time time for that is required to get the information from Euro President will be shorter, the more companies will be interested in making the audits for their energy efficiency measures. So the new system can only we can only report the plant projects. We cannot report the projects that were completed like it was in a previous system. We raised the substitution for white certificates from 1,000 zlotys to 1,500 per TOE, but we changed the calculation on savings. So far, we calculated savings by primal energy. From now, the audits are supposed to be calculated to final energy. Now we can submit the installation that includes EU ETS. So far, we couldn't do that. And as I said, we have continuous call for application. The decision to grant the certificates from Euro President is 45 days. So as I said at the beginning, it is way faster because in the previous system we were supposed to wait up to 9 months. So the list of projects in the new system is very long, but the projects that are very popular in the system is the usage of waste heat and energy recovery technology, because with low investment it can grant a huge payback in white certificates. Reduction of heat and ventilating and air conditioning system, and the reduction of cooling demand through, for example, free cooling. Replacing the electrical installation with more efficient ones. So far, due to calculation on primal energy, the electrical installation were promoted in the white certificate system because of the efficiency on calculation, the final to primal energy. The very popular, due to easy way to prepare audits, we have thermal renovation on building and lighting system, and due to growth in technology, the reactive power compensation and intelligent control system is also starting to take serious place in the projects that are reported in the white certificate system. As I said earlier, we are supposed to have other projects, other systems that promote the energy efficiency. We have regional programs, but most of them don't apply to all of interested parties. The small and medium enterprises cannot use the programs from National Fund of Environment, and the large companies cannot use the regional programs. So the white certificate scheme can be used by all the parties including the public institutions. I would like to show you shortly how the white certificates system works in Poland. Example of implementation: we have a compressor system that in the company with 3 compressor stations, 10 compressors in each. The specific energy consumption was 111 kilowatts per per 1,000 normal cubic meters, and due to change in and modernization of the compressor system, we have 6 new compressors. One of the compressors room was discarded, and we managed to lower the specific energy consumption to 96 kilowatt hours per kilo normal meters cubic meters. The annual energy saving in the project was around 9,500 megawatt hours, which can be recalculated to 2,000 TOE. With the investment cost of 2 million euro, the annual saving was the simple payback periods was 3.4 years. In some companies, the 3 years payback period won't be good enough to implement. So with the payback from white certificates, the payback period can be reduced to 2.96 years, which can determine whether the project will be implemented or not in the specific companies. Another project that I would like to show you was the modernization at glasswork plant, the modernization of a tank furnace that was from the 80s. It was not modernized since it was constructed, and we changed the project included changing the burners, the heat recovery from the flue gases, and we created a recuperation in the system. The modernization brought savings in gas. It was around 7,000 megawatt hours, which can be calculated to 640 TOE. The investment cost was around 280 euros, and with the annual reduction cost of 25,000, the payback period was 11 years. So thanks to white certificate system, the payback period in this case was changed from 11 years to 2 years, and with the huge saving that it brought, it determined that the project was implemented, and it was granted the white certificates in this particular company. I hope I showed you how the system works in Poland. Thank you very much for attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Michal, for your presentation. Now I give the floor again to Effie to illustrate the result of a UMERSI survey across industries, associations, and ESCOs. Please, Effie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So hello again. It has been a very interesting, all the past presentations, and I think that the survey and the results provide interest comparisons and combining of information. So I will start directly with the objective of the survey. So in the frame of EU Mercy, we conducted a survey to see the current status of the implementation of energy efficiency measures in the industry in the European Union. And we wanted also to collect information concerning the barriers and the choices the industry and the general domain are making. So we created the questionnaires and more or less they had the same context, but it was divided in three sectors. One specified for industrial companies, one for ESCOs, and one for industrial associations or federations. They were available in a Word or in the web form, so they could the participants could online complete the survey. And the survey was done from July to October. Here we can see the structure of the questionnaires, which, as I said before, was similar for all the three categories, and it has been divided in 10 different categories. First of all, we wanted to have a general view of the company identity. So there were some questions there trying to identify the size of the company and other similar information. Then there was a sector which we wanted to register the level of energy awareness of the participants, the energy use of their companies. So we had questions relating to the level of the energy use, the percentages of thermal or electric amount, and other stuff. Then there was a category that focused on the approach they had chosen to do concerning the energy efficiency implications. Then we registered their motivation, that the reasons that actually they decided to apply measures for energy efficiency. Furthermore, there was a detailed description of the technical measures they had chosen. Then the level of satisfaction from the implementations of these measures, the economic feasibility, the barriers that had been presented, and finally the organization feasibility for future and current implementation of energy efficiency measures. Some general outcome of this survey, that we had the participation of 130 companies from 9 European countries that you can see here. Some general characterizations based in the majority of the companies that had participated. Most of them were from middle to very large size. In general, there had been a good awareness on energy issues. They were okay. They knew what is happening in the domain, and the energy cost of the majority is from 2 to 10% of their turnover. Concerning the ESCOs, we had 15 replies from 4 countries. And concerning the associations, there had been 13 replies from 8 countries. They registered as sectors of participated industry association to be of biogas, energy consumers, food and drinks industry, oils and fats, goods and furniture, cement and constructions. This was the responses registered from the survey. So here is the more interesting results concerning the companies. First of all, we have noticed that most of them have been, most of the participant companies have been certified to ISO 501, have already used energy performance indicators during their management system, and have appointed an energy manager. They have, furthermore, since we talked a lot about the white certificate, most of them, about 47%, have been registered according to obligations, since, such as the white certificate that has been described before. The reasons, the main motivation that was chosen by the plurality for applying energy efficiency measures have been the aim to reduce the energy costs, following by the aim to reduce the production cost, and the technical approach that was used by the majority was the applications of measures to the manufacturing process. From these, other options had been the applying of measures to services and different infrastructures and to company buildings. Now, from the measures to the manufacturing process, the most popular solutions have been, as you can see here, the use of inverters, the use of high-efficiency electric motors, and changes to the energy management systems, as automations, etc. The results after the implementation of the companies had been of the plurality, again, yes, the majority, more or less 5% reduction to the annual energy bill, and this gave the impression of to the 45% of the participant companies to be quite happy with the results, as they declared that they had achieved the expected objectives that they had in their minds before applying the energy efficiency measures. Concerning the funding, most of them have done the changes by their own capitals. However, those that had chosen financial instruments, and it was subsidies. Some of the barriers that had been noticed during the survey was the too long payback time, the investments cost, and bureaucracy. This was more or less the results concerning individual companies. So each company would fill in the questionnaire, and the more interesting results in the separate sectors have been these ones. Now, concerning the ESCOs, first of all, as a general idea, most of the served companies by the ESCOs had not been affiliated to a group, but had already participated to energy efficiency support schemes. The ESCOs usually had provided consultancy and recommendation design and monitoring and advice to their companies. Again, the motivation and the technical approach, as they indicated for their companies served, had been, first of all, to reduce the energy costs, and then the way that they chose to apply the measures was to the manufacturing process. Again, the most popular solution had been the use of inverters. The results and satisfaction level was more or less the same as the individual companies, since the ESCOs had noticed a 5 to 10% reduction to the annual energy bill, and 57% of the served companies had declared satisfaction by the efficiency path chosen. The funding had been mainly by their own capitals, and quite a lot of them had also applied for loans, which in a way it's again by their own capitals. A quite big percentage again of the companies that had been served by ESCOs do use white certificates. And as barriers, they had been the most big barriers had been proven to be the too long payback time and bureaucracy. Concerning the associations, most of the associations have 10 to 50 members. They do not provide direct assistance in the implementation of measures, but indirect. And most of the companies, of the associate companies, just to have a general idea again of the target group, of the group investigated, have the 2 to 10% of their turnover given to for energy. They have organized energy audits by experts. They had participated to European to energy efficient support schemes and had implemented measures recently. And it was the first time here that the issue of the energy's competitiveness came to the surface, and most of the companies actually do believe that applying energy efficiency measures can do their companies more competitive to the domain and to the market. Again, the motivational technical approach was the same as before. So the first motive was the reduction of energy costs, and the most preferred, the most popular choice was to apply the measures to the manufacturing process. However, in this case, the most popular solutions had been the efficient combustion systems, use of high efficiency electric motors, and energy management systems. The inverters were not so popular in this domain. The results and satisfaction as well, it had been registered at 5 to 10 reduction to the annual energy bill, and half of the companies have declared they are partially satisfied by the achievement in respect to the expectancy. In that case, partially satisfied means that they are more than 50% satisfied by the achievements, while others are again partially satisfied, but not so much, like less than 50%. The less than 50% was the 20% of the companies, of the associations. Again, the funding had been mainly by their own capitals. And the barriers had been too long payback time and bureaucracy. So, as a conclusion, we can see that in general, of the participant companies, ESCOs and associations, most of them has a very good energy awareness on the sector, both to their own energy status and to the energy efficiency options and possibilities. They use ISO and similar certification regimes. They have energy performance indicators and appointed energy manager. All of the first motive for and the most popular motivation for the application of energy efficiency measures had been the reduction of the energy cost, usually following by the reduction of production costs. And the technical approach had been to do changes to the manufacture process. All the results had been more or less similar. about 5 or maximum to 10%, and most of the companies had been quite satisfied with the results, since it was more or less what they had expected. Most of them had done the funding of the changes for better energy efficiency by their own funding, their own capitals, or by loans. However, they had, of those that had asked for other ways of funding, have chosen subsidies. And as the barriers, it was proven that in all cases, first of all, the too long payback time, and then bureaucracy. You can find the report at the website, where it's more details with the respective figures and graphs and pies, with all the details and the percentages. And for the future of the project, we'll do similar surveys locally for the countries, so that we can have a more clear image, and to be able to continue the capacity building action of the project. So this is more or less the output, the outcome of the survey. Thank you. Now I can share the slide with you with the contacts of the speakers of the, where is here? When we proceed, while we proceed, we continue with the questions and other.
Yes.
Here,
thank you very much, Effie. I remind of the participants that the registration of this webinar, together with the presentation, will be available on the UMercy website and YouTube channels next week. So now you have a possibility to ask for questions by using the chat pane in the control panel of GoToWebinar. So please, if you have questions, ask for them. You will also have the possibility to ask for questions in the questionnaire that you will receive next week, both to see if this webinar has been useful and to allow you to ask for additional questions. So, no questions? Well, Giorgio, do you want to say something? Giorgio, are you there?
Dario?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, Giorgio Franchioni speaking from RSC. We are the coordinator of UMercy, and I just want to try to draw some conclusion of this webinar. At first, I want to thank all the participants, hoping that they found interesting information from this first dissemination through a webinar of the project. And of course, I have to thank my colleagues, speakers, the partner of UMercy. As a conclusion, I would like to let you know that there are a lot of efforts in Europe towards the improvement of energy efficiency in the industry, thanks also to the pushing of the directive and according, of course, to the EU energy goals. In order to improve the efficiency against still high potential of saving in the industry. There is a huge number of measures, although we are far from a common approach. There are a lot of measures implemented in different countries with a different mechanism, different typology of interventions from finance, training, fiscal incentivization, and so. However, we have shown with this presentation a number of good examples of effective mechanism in different countries, not all linked to the energy directive, but showing that a huge number of companies may draw benefits in terms of savings and in terms of a reduction of costs. And this is a road that we want to investigate through our project Humercy. The information coming from this application form a consolidated and very strong basis for our analysis, whose objective will be the presentation, the proposal of good practices for efficiency and of effective schemes to be adopted, to be replicated in the different countries, even those that have no consolidated scheme yet. This is the first, as told by Effie, this is the first webinar of a series of different webinar. This is related, this deal with policies. The other webinar are more technological, more industry sector targeted, and our intent is to replicate this trilogy of dissemination tools in different countries, and this is important for us to know of your interest in this kind of initiatives. And the questionnaire that will be distributed in the next days will help us to understand. So I push and I invite you to reply to the questionnaire and also to be part of the stakeholders community of Humercy. You may find in our site the link to register to the community in order to be informed of our progress in advance with respect to the official documents, and to also participate actively, interactively to our development. So thank you again for the participation, for your participation. I hope you enjoy this dissemination action, and if you have any question, we are ready to reply to you, and or if you prefer to write your question in the questionnaire, do as you like. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Giorgio. I also like to remind you that next Thursday there will be the Humercy conference in Rome for people in the area. It can be another opportunity to understand something about our activities, and that in the next months we'll start dealing more with effective technical good practices in the industrial sector. So, since there are no questions yet, I think that perhaps it's Friday afternoon. The weekend is nearing, so I thank you everybody for the participation. Thank you the speakers for the speech, and I hope you will participate in the next Humercy activities, and that you will be interested to join our community and to effectively contribute to our actions. Thank you very much, and see you next time.